showtime, fellas. We live.
Our show is not filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Our show is completely unscripted, and we go off the dome with it. So we can answer any of your questions. We don't mind kind of going off script a little bit, but we do have key points because we want this to be a reference tool, a teaching tool, something you could use, you could go back to and use multiple times if you need to. It's important to us that we give you a toolkit on what masculinity and manhood is, because we realize a lot of you young men have never had that. So we're the three wise men. We're the three uncles you never wanted. And we're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you what you need to know. And we're talking about Masculinity Rebooted in 2025. And each one of us, each one of the men on this panel have a lot to say about where masculinity and manhood need to go in 2025. And you know what? You see how we're doing our part. We're contributing to it right now, right here, today. So call us up if you got any questions. We got you. We want to make better men out of all of you. So,
including ourselves.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'll go first tonight. My name is William, and I gotta say, I do this all the time. I'm not part of the manosphere. I'm not with any different colored pills. I'm not with any communities or movements. I'm not some pickup artist. I'm not a dating coach. You're probably asking yourself, why do I do this? Hey, that's a great question. It's because I have extensive experience with women. So I know firsthand, most of you fellas, you don't even know what you're up against. And you've been conditioned to think the way you do. It's not even your fault. So we get together and we decided we're going to help you guys out. So we go live 2 nights a week to answer any questions you have about manhood, dating, women, whatever you need. We got you. Johnny, why don't you introduce yourself?
So I'm Johnny Dumbbell. I'm a personal trainer and lifestyle coach. What I want people to understand is I am not a clinical psychiatrist. I am in no way, shape, or form. I studied psychology one time in college and I got a C. So that is not what I do here. What I do here is I might not even give you an educated answer, but what I will give you is an experienced answer. And I think that we've seen time and time again, both in our career fields as well as real life, there's certain lessons in life that only experience, not education, can teach you. You should still have both. But remember, being in the shit is a lot different from reading about the shit. And we've been in the shit.
We have been in the trenches, Johnny. Hey, TK, go ahead and introduce yourself, my man.
What's happening? I'm TK. I'm from West Virginia. I'm a masculinity coach and America's favorite country boy. We're just here to help you guys out, man. Call in with questions, whatever. Call in to criticize. Call in for whatever you want to. We're up to bullshit, whatever you want to do, man. But we're mostly here to help you guys out.
All right, let me get the Skype number up and running, and we'll get it because, hey, man, we got a lot to talk about, man, when it comes to masculinity, like the state of manhood itself. Gentlemen, it could very well fall to us to get these young men on the right path and turn all the bitch-assness we've seen in 2024 around. We got to light a fire under them to be better men. And to do that, we got to do more live streams. We got to reach out to more of these young men and turn them around because, like I say, man, they've been conditioned to think the way they do. And it's not just with women, it's with manhood. I'm here to say men don't move that way. One of the things that really gets me is when they talk about men need to be in touch with their feelings. Men need to be emotional. No, I don't think so at all. I think you need to mitigate and manage your emotions, and that's part of being a man. I don't need to talk to somebody. Go ahead, Johnny.
I think I feel like if a mixed group of men and women found themselves stranded on a desert island after a plane crash, you're not going to find people asking men to talk about their feelings because they're going to be too busy trying to survive. No one cares about your feelings right there, guys. Number two, you won't find a single feminist.
Well, you know,
look, survival instinct. We're going to all go to our instinctual selves. You know, I mean, men are going to hunt.
At some point, I'm sure we're gonna get into how feminism only exists in a vacuum. But we got some other groundwork we need to lay first. We got some other things we need to hit. You know, I have so much I want to speak on this, but I don't want to just jump right to toxic masculinity. But I'm telling you, dog, I'm gonna get down on that. First, I think it's important we talk about what masculinity is from a historic perspective, gentlemen, and examine how masculinity has changed throughout history and, well, throughout the past 100 years. Because I got to tell you, there has been a feminization of the modern males in American society. These guys think it's okay to act like they do and move the way they do, and they don't see any problems at all with it. So,
in fact, they see movies and TV shows where they actually get romance as a reward.
Look, exactly. let me drop a little morsel of knowledge on you fellas. The reason why masculinity is in the state that it's in today, and the reason why it's made the changes that it has, because there's no strife today with the young male youth. They didn't have to worry about putting food in their bellies every day and hunting for their food to feed their families and stuff like they did 100 years ago. They didn't have time to whine and cry and bitch and moan about their feelings and every fucking thing else because they were too busy surviving, keeping clothes on their families' backs and their roofs patched and food in their bellies. You know what I mean? They didn't have time to bitch and moan and stuff like the young males do today. They didn't have all that time on their hands. They didn't have people just handing them things. You know what I mean? They had to work for it. So that's why masculinity is so much different today and why it's in the state that it's in, because there's just not the same hardships with the young male youth that there used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to a point where my question is it that she can do anything that he can do, or is it that might be closer to being true because there isn't as much that he can do as there used to be?
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, we have brought this up in the past that equality with the men and women stops in the workplace. Because when it comes to relationships, we're not equal. We're certainly not equal. And that's not to say that men are better. We're each uniquely suited for our own roles in those relationships. But, gentlemen, gender roles exist for a reason. You know, it's
yeah.
When we talk about masculinity throughout history, you know, we couldn't have evolved as much as we have without the men that have built the skyscrapers and the power lines, electrical grids, the oil workers that make the gasoline for the car. There is so much about our world that is contributed to through the masculinity of men.
And look, I'll say this right now. We are the only country on this planet that allows the younger men or the males to get by with the shit that they do. And you know, they don't put up with that shit in other countries. Males, they carry their role or else there's consequences. You know what I mean? And on top of that, we're the only country also that allows such a laxed rules and regulations when it comes to sexuality and things. You know what I mean? That kind of goes to show you where things are headed. I mean, in my book, it does.
You know, I got to tell you, I like something that Israel does, and they don't just do it with young men. They also do it with women too. They make them serve in the Israeli military at a certain age. And I think that builds a a set of values. It teaches them responsibility. It teaches them a code. I would love to see our country do that. I would love to see a lot of these cupcake guys who have never had to sleep on the ground in their life serve our country and learn some duty and responsibility. Nothing would make me happy. Now, I think we're going to get there? I doubt it.
And I'll tell you this, man. Out of hardships and strife comes extraordinary human beings. A lot of the times, it takes you going through the worst hardships in your life in order for something extraordinary to come out of it, or for you to break out of your shell and be the person that you were meant to be. And without those hardships, you notice that we don't have as many extraordinary males out there today as we used to, because they're not being put through a certain element in their younger days that brings out the person in them that they really are. You know what I mean? Because they don't have to fight for this or fight for that. I think it has a lot to do with the way things are going when it comes to masculinity.
Hey, Jill, thanks for the comment. Yeah, and a lot of girls can say that. A lot of girls have been raised by their dads and were taught, a lot of those masculine traits. And that's fantastic. But remember, that makes you the exception, not the rule. So I think that's awesome that you're the exception to the rule. But remember, that's an outlying situation. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, it's awesome for you, but it's just not the norm, unfortunately.
No, we can't even get fathers to teach their sons how to do things like change tires. I'm not lying to you. I know young men whose father never even taught him how to change a tire.
Oh, can't maintenance a vehicle, just regular maintenance. Check the oil, the fluids, whatever. I mean, it's a sad thing.
So now, hey, I talked to a lot of young men. I enjoy doing it for many different reasons. A lot of it's research. And I ran into a young man last week, and I was talking with him, and he's actually going back into our Army because he got out not even a year ago and trying to adjust back to civilian life. He just, the weakness that men are out here, the poor excuse that passes for men. He's like, I would rather be back in the military and be around masculine people than all these guys with these feminine traits out here.
Yeah.
So I get it. At least there's some structure and.
Yeah, and I think that point. I think that points to his inability to trust somebody that he can't bring himself to respect. I get it.
I myself find difficulty working for someone that I can't respect. Like whenever I get a supervisor or a manager or somebody that I can respect, I'll go hard for them. But if it's somebody who I look at them and I just know they don't have principles, they don't have integrity, they don't have values, they don't have work ethic, I have a hard time respecting them.
Yeah, it's hard to take orders from someone like that. You know what I mean? When you don't respect them, because this motherfucker's telling me what to do.
Now, gentlemen, I talk about how men are conditioned to think a certain way. And I think this goes deeper than any of us realize. I think this goes back at least 100 years. And I think it's because we had corporations that wanted workers. Okay. You had people like religious fanatics too. You had like Kellogg, like everybody eats Kellogg cereal, right? Well, what do you know about the guy who founded Kellogg cereal? You guys know that he was a religious fanatic? Do you know that he wanted to stop young men from masturbating? So he created breakfast cereals to lower testosterone in young boys. So you have generations of that going on where young men, adolescent males, are being fed food specifically to lower their testosterone. Now, I want you to take that and combine it with people like J.P. Morgan, who invested millions of dollars in the school system in this country back around 100 years ago. And he did that because he didn't want free-thinking people who are going to stand up for themselves. He wanted workers. So they created a curriculum similar to Germany to create young men to be more easily molded into good workers. So you got things that like Kellogg lowering testosterone, people like J.P. Morgan trying to take masculine leadership out. Now, let's talk about the last 50 years and what these pharmaceutical companies do to young boys. They say they have ADHD and start shoving methamphetamines down their throat to keep them under control so they can learn. Now, how many boys are on that medicine versus how many girls? I don't even want to know what the numbers are because I'm not really a statistics guy, but I know for sure that more young men are prescribed ADHD medicine than young women. So that's something else. Now our testosterone being lowered by our food. Our minds are being conditioned by our schools. And we're being pumped full of medicine, so we sit there nice and calm while it happens. I think there are many things that have led to the decline in masculinity and the feminization of the modern males in American society. And I am grateful that we have this panel to talk about it, gentlemen. Shout out to you.
That's another thing, man, that, it leads back to what Ricky Redpill was saying. When you have I'm all for everyone being the sexuality they want to be, but you got to think about it like this. When you have young men being raised by two dads instead of a mom and a dad, or by two moms instead of a mom and a dad, their masculinity preferences or how they view masculinity when they get older is going to be much different than someone like you or I, who was raised by a strict dad who whipped your ass when you got out of line and made you work all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that's another reason why masculinity is headed in the direction that it is. We are also the only country, again, who has medicine for the well, for people who aren't even sick. You know what I mean? And here our citizens think that they don't see anything wrong with that. And I think that has a lot to do with the masculinity too, like you were saying about the pharmaceuticals and stuff. Do we really know what they are feeding the young males today at the doctor's offices and in food and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Do we really know 100% what's in that stuff? No, we don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Billy Gardell once said. He's talking about an antidepressant, and one of the side effects is might cause anal leakage. He goes, I don't know, man. I think I'd rather be sad than leak.
Yeah. But now listen. Now look at the females. Now, if you look at females and the directions that they have came since, say, the 50s, their bodies, like female asses, female boobs. Look at how much more filled out younger women are today at an earlier age than they used to be 50 or 70 years ago. Now, that obviously has something to do with the hormones and the things that they're putting in our food. You know what I mean? Because women didn't develop that way on their own by working out, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. They started developing like that long before women started going to the gym and exercising and getting gym memberships since the 50s. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, combine that with not only a willingness, but an outright eagerness to show it off, too. In a way that even when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, I could hear parents being able to justifiably say, no, you're not going out like that. If you are, don't tell anybody your last name.
Right.
Where now it's just kind of like, no, be who you are. You're brave for that.
It's the everyday norm. You see women walking through the mall in bikinis
bravery
and shit.
Screw you one way or another, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I don't concern myself with the things that women do, but I would like to keep our focus on Masculinity Rebooted for 2025. So I think one of the things that's it's important that nobody's going to want to talk about is masculinity and mental health. Because, man, I don't even know where I want to start with this because
I do.
I'll tell you what. I'll dive right into it.
Let's talk about this mental health and masculinity.
I'll dive right into it for you. Okay, listen. So you figure since maybe the 60s or 70s, maybe a little bit later, guys started getting into, who are going to the gym and stuff, started getting into testosterone, anabolics, and things like that. Now, that might raise your masculinity while you're on that cycle, going to the gym and stuff. You know what I mean? But if you don't have the right PCT or the right post-cycle therapy, when you come down off of that cycle, your hormones are going to be all messed up. Your masculinity is going to be completely haywire. I think that has a little bit to do with masculinity and mental health in the direction it's going today too, because we have a lot of guys who are on anabolic things, you know what I mean? And it puts you in a different mind state, not to mention it messes your hormones and stuff up, and that it goes out into a bridge way later on into your life. So I think that has a lot to do with the direction masculinity is going too, because they didn't have that kind of thing, 50 or 70 years ago.
Go ahead, Johnny. What were you going to say?
So, I mean, as somebody who's been in and out of mental health, not facilities, but treatment, and by that I mean, I've had medication in the past. I've seen therapists. I'm currently seeing a therapist. Shout out to Dr. H. Anyway, the thing of it is that once you sat down with yourself as a man, the first thing I thought to myself was, I go to mental health. I don't need that. I'm sad. I'm not going to jump off a building or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is that once you've actually sat there and said, look, I can either be a masculine man and think I'm too tough for this, or I could be a masculine man and say, I've got a problem, and a masculine man takes steps to solve the problem. And if one of those steps is to see a professional, then damn it, see a professional. I'm sure ideas on somebody who's been there and done that. You have the option of being able to find one online now. Okay. So there's really no other reason to not seek that help that you think you need. Even if you don't think you need help, speak to somebody. There's a lot of problems in your life you can sort out and move forward a lot faster, a lot more progressively if you can actually figure out, what your triggers are, what holds you back, what makes you better. Instead of getting on social media and announcing what all your damn triggers are, stop it. Stop it. Get out there and fix it. Get out there and fix you. Jeez. Get that help.
Well said, Johnny. Now, and I think that's you made a really good point. Most guys they feel like they don't need mental health. They don't need to go see someone, or
right.
If they do, yeah, it's not for. Look, I think if you're going to do it, it's got to be like anything. Like, you got to commit to it. Like, if you're going to quit drinking and you want to go to NA, you got to commit to it. If you want to go to the gym and lose a bunch of weight, you got to commit to it. So I think mental health is, it's the same. You have to commit to it. So your mental health and your self-care should be a top priority for you. And if you have people in your life that aren't conducive for your mental health, you need to get rid of them. And that's something we talk about all the time, is learning how to get rid of people in your life that are no good for you. So what if you rode the bus with them in junior high? If they're using you for rides, if they're always borrowing money, if they throw you under the bus in a heartbeat, then get rid of them. Well, you don't owe them anything. Now, I can't speak too much about personally having much mental health experience, but I can say that I know a lot of guys who have been through it and have benefited from it. So I have nothing. I think you guys should go and talk to somebody. And what's the worst that could happen? You go talk to somebody and they say, you're okay. You're good. Because I don't know. But
Look, man, a real
for mental health. I know a lot of people haven't been given a toolkit to process the things that happen. So I'm all for that.
Look, man, a real man who's comfortable with himself and his masculinity and who he is as a person doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. He knows who he is, what he can do, what he's capable of, and he does whatever he needs to better his life in a forward motion direction for the future. It's as simple as that. You don't fucking take into account what anybody else thinks about what you're doing. At least I don't.
They ain't waking up in your bed every morning and they're not paying your bills at the end of the month.
That's right.
Now, gentlemen, when we talk about masculinity, we have to talk about its impact on social media. But before we do that, let's get a clear definition of what masculinity is to each of us. Because I got to tell you, what masculinity is to me, I first think of masculine leadership. I think of my responsibilities as a man, as a father, as a leader of a household, as a leader in my community. I think of masculine leadership. And what that means to me is that I'm not out doing dishonorable things. I'm not out doing things that could come back to, as TK would say, bite me in the ass, So it's just that I'm being accountable in how I move. And I realize that my actions affect other people and that at times strangers will even look to me for leadership. And, as a masculine man, it's just my responsibility to do that, provide that. So when I think of masculinity, I think of leadership. About you, TK, let's hear your definition of masculinity.
In my book, man, to me, masculinity is looking fear in the face when everyone else is scared shitless, or the way you handle yourself in a situation when everyone else is handling themselves like assholes. And like you said too, leadership, taking care of your family, setting a positive role. And masculinity to me too is being who you are, who you really are, not giving a shit what anyone else thinks about it.
Johnny Dumbbell, let's hear your definition.
I'm going to go with assertion. Assertion means so many different things, especially when you're a man. When you're growing up as an adolescent man, when you become a young man. Assertion is what you're going to need to accelerate yourself. It's the rocket fuel that's going to push you through these difficult formative years of your life. Assertion is going to be everything from the presence that you command as you walk through to a room full of strangers. Assertion is going to be the way you speak to people at your job to let them know that you are the expert in whatever field you're working in. And listen, make no mistake, I don't give a good goddamn if you're the grill cook at the local bistro. The point is, you be that grill cook. You be that guy that walks in there and people know that tonight's going to be under control because you're here. At home, you're the person that even if you can't solve the problem, the one they can lean on, the strength, that foundation. You assert yourself as that. So it's not just about walking around, talking about the big stick you wield that never comes out of your sheath. You're walking around with the best weapon of all. Your mind, your soul, and most important, your self-belief in both of those parts of you.
Well put, Johnny. Now, this brings me to my next point. When I hear about toxic masculinity on social media, because when you're a masculine man and you're accountable and you're an assertive man, you're not doing toxic behavior. So to me, it is a toxic lack of masculinity. And the problem is that we don't have enough masculinity in the world.
Yeah. I mean, if you're walking around telling other men that you're bigger, better, and stronger than them, well, number one, okay, fine, that's toxic. And number two, eventually someone really soon is going to show that you're incorrect.
Well, if somebody's walking around talking about they're bigger and badder than other people, I'll tell you right now, they're insecure. And I'll easily pick out their insecurities and may even pick a fight while I'm at it. Who knows?
But insecurity is toxic, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Yep. Absolutely. Now,
if you're like TK is saying, unapologetically yourself, then you don't need to walk around and tell everybody how big and bad you are, and you're definitely not insecure.
That's the epitome of assertion. Yes.
TK, I know this is something you talk about, is spending time alone and self-reflection and learning yourself. And I think all of that plays into masculinity as well, because you have to know yourself, and when you know yourself, you have a unwavering self-belief in who you are, what you can do, what you have accomplished. And when you have that, when you walk around every day with that tool, it's hard to stop you. It really is. That's what masculinity is to me. Like, you can't stop me. If there's something I want to do, it doesn't matter how many obstacles are thrown in my way. I'm not giving up. No, I'll find a workaround and I will get my goal accomplished, because that's what we do as men. We don't give up. We accomplish goals, and then it's on to the next.
And you said something interesting, know yourself. When I was going through my divorce, I got my first and so far only tattoo. And it was a Latin phrase, nocete ipsum. Remember that, Bill?
Yep.
You were there. Nocete ipsum, and it's Latin. It means know thyself. And the thing of it is, I made sure that I had it tattooed across the back of my shoulders. Why? Because knowing yourself should be the first and heaviest burden you should be able to carry, and be able to carry the longest. Now, for me, that means put it on my shoulders.
Now, something else I think that, look, I think it's important that, hold on, that's not something I want to, a fight I want to pick yet. Let's move on instead to masculinity.
Jill, I will wear my socks with my sandals, and there's nothing you can say about it, okay?
John,
I'm doing it right now. How do you know?
All right, you got, John, do we need to have a talk about your swag? Is that what we're doing tonight?
First of all, I'm at home and I'm not going anywhere. Second of all, alcohol's involved. Lay off me.
Let's pull up Johnny Dumbbell's IG and do a little swag check on some of the stuff he wears. You want to check out some of his clips?
Are you able to zoom in on what this is? I got to zoom in. This is a Big Bone Lick. It's Big Bone Lick State Park, or historic site. You know where that is?
I don't know where that is.
I don't either, but I love this shirt. Lay off my hat, please.
All right, Johnny. Now, when we talk about masculinity rebooted, I think it's, we need to mention the importance of fatherhood in rebooting masculinity. We need to talk about the importance of mentorship, and something I've heard TK mention before, accidentally finding the wrong mentors.
That's easy to do.
TK, how did you were talking about the negative role models? Can you talk a little bit more about that for us? Like finding the wrong role models?
Well, I mean, you got to figure, man, just like I was saying a little bit ago, there are tons of different reasons for the lack of masculinity today. And I think that one of those things can be a young guy can imprint and start following the wrong role model. And therefore, later on in life, that can lead to a lack of masculinity, or it can just generally lead to you being a follower if that role model doesn't guide you in the proper direction. You know what I mean? As what I mean by that is role model you into an independent masculinity, to where you're a man that's not dependent on any other man for anything, but you can still look up to another. You're looking up to someone, but you're not a follower. I think there's a big difference there between having a role model and being a follower, you know what I mean, and following someone. And it can rub off on a person, especially if they're a young, impressionable mind, and lead them in the complete wrong direction in life. You know what I mean?
Well, I do actually, TK. I have a lot of experience with that myself. Something that I have mentioned once or twice on this panel before is how I am a reformed street thug. And I think a lot of it was because when I was younger, I got in with some of the wrong role models, and I got into basically a life of crime, man. I have an extensive criminal record, and and don't get me wrong, these straight up dudes, but maybe these people that I was looking up to and being taught the game by should have pointed me in another direction, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about young minds being so impressionable. You know what I mean? Whether it's the family that you're growing up in, or the lack thereof, or medication that you've taken since you were a child. There can be tons of different reasons. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, man. It's all about who you imprint on and look up to when you're young and you're impressionable. That can have a huge effect on who you become later on in life. If you don't come out of your shell and start open your eyes, you know what I mean, and start being yourself.
Well, not just when you're young, but you got to understand that the same thing happens with men in their 30s.
Well, yeah, you're right.
40s.
You're right.
And, especially when we're talking about a 21 or a 22-year-old, there's not much difference between a 21, 22-year-old and a 28 and a 29-year-old.
Right.
They're basically the same young man. And when really by the time you went through your 20s, you should be forged into manhood by then. You should have made several mistakes and bounced back from them and be able to turn your life around.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is that one of the cornerstones on which I love you, Joe. One of the big cornerstones on which I base my life coaching is this. I've made that mistake before. When I tell my coaching clients to say, listen, I wouldn't do it that way. Why? If I start my next sentence with, look, I'm telling you, what you're about to hear is going to be some knowledge. And it's going to be some knowledge that I did not obtain because I was smart. It's going to be a knowledge that I obtained because I was stupid, probably more than once. So, I mean, this is why we do what we do, because, guys, you don't have to fall on your face like we did. You have resources like the internet that we did not have back then. We didn't have our choice of man topics like this. We didn't have our choice of, panelists who could give us good advice on how to make our lives better. We just didn't have at the tips of our fingers and the push of a button, or in this case, the touch of a freaking icon to be able to show us how we need to conduct ourselves if we wanted this elusive, better life that is out there. So we had to take our lumps. And the reason we took our lumps, so you don't have to. So you see the number on the screen? Give us a call. We'll tell you about some of the lumps we've taken. Maybe we'll spare you a couple.
Attaboy, Johnny. Let me put this number up again.
Well,
Don't be afraid to call in with any of your questions. We got you.
Back in the day, Bill and I, when we were running around young, we'd hit a lick on you in a second. But we weren't following anyone else. We were doing it for us because we fucking wanted to. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big problem with the youth today is they follow entirely too much. And that leads to just bad things later on in life, you know.
Yeah, see, the only thing I know about the criminal justice system is that I'm the guy they usually call to bail me out. Not Bill and TK here, but people.
Well, you know, I can't tell you how many times, you know, my buddy's kids or someone else's kids, you know, they get in trouble in school or get in trouble with the law, and it's always because of someone else. Someone else talked them into it. You know what I mean? They followed someone else, you know, and I think that's a huge problem today, man. You know, we didn't just run along and trail other people when we were young. You know, we cut our own fucking path and did our own thing, whether you liked it or not. If you were in the way, you got fucking burnt down. Simple as that.
And you didn't do it for internet clout either.
That's right. That's right. You know, we didn't do it for fame on the internet or because someone else was telling us to, or to follow someone else, you know, follow the leader. You know, that's a huge problem today, man, is that people can't think for themselves. Young men have such a problem thinking for themselves. It's just so much easier to follow directions from someone else.
Well, and I'll tell you why, because they've got the same source that they go to for information when they're not sure of something is the same source they go to for their cultural influence.
Right. Yeah.
So like you said, not only is this internet doing their thinking for them, this internet is presetting and helping adjust their attitude towards life for them. You know, so they're not determining their lives based on their accomplishments and their drive to accomplish more. They're basing their lives on what they've seen and what they feel is possible because they've seen it.
Well, you know, what happened, man? What happened? Remember, I mean, a couple of 1,000 years ago, man, a man's job was to create a legacy for himself and his family. And that's what his whole life was about, was working hard to give his family a good name and a good legacy and leave them with what they didn't have when he started out. And nowadays, that is completely lost.
Well, you can point to a lot of things. You can point to the fact that once there were two-income households, and please believe when I say this, when they did the whole, you know, equal rights in the workplace and all that stuff to get, the government was not interested in equal rights. The government was interested in more than one income in the house because that means more tax revenue. And don't you find it funny that that's about the same time that compounding interest got a little more compounded? So, I mean, remember, anytime the government preaches equality, they don't have your best interests in mind. They don't have your opportunities in mind. They have their wallet in mind. That is it. Okay. So the thing of it is, as we found out with the pandemic a few years ago, and as we found out over the last half a century of trying to prove something that we all know not to be true, is that equality myth. It's that the only time the media and the government will ever actually agree and tell you the same thing is the time you ought to probably be paying attention to what the real issue just might be.
That's right.
Now, next up, I want to talk about what we can do because, you know, that we want to make a positive impact with these podcasts. So I think it's important we share some practical advice or some strategies on how young men can develop emotional intelligence, resilience, and use that to apply it with healthy relationships.
Yeah, I think the most important lesson when it comes to emotional intelligence, and probably the most shocking to learn, is knowing the moment you need to nope out. Now, that could be after 5 minutes, that could be after 5 years. But you're going to need to know, you know, listen, I hate to quote cheesy country songs, but you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, buddy. More importantly, when to walk away and when to run. And when to run.
One of the greatest gifts that we were given as human beings is the gut instinct.
That's interesting. I often think the greatest thing that ever happened to me was being born a male, you know, have the opportunity to grow into a man.
Well, I just mean as human beings, but.
Well, right. But yeah. a lot of young men are being told not to be too hasty to judge. when it comes to trusting your gut instinct, but girls are being told, trust your gut and go with that, and nothing else matters. And honestly, they're right, but they don't want you doing it. Just saying.
Well, we shouldn't be doing the things that women do anyway, but.
Well, I guess my point is they're doing things that we do, or they're trying.
Now, I would say when it comes to developing emotional intelligence, it would be something TK was talking about earlier on this stream. Being unapologetically yourself, not caring what anyone else thinks about you. I think that is going to build a certain level of emotional intelligence that's going to be recognizable by everyone you meet.
Yeah. And look, for each relationship that you're in as you get older, you gain a little bit more emotional intelligence. You know what I mean? You gain a little bit more knowledge on emotions and relationships, your own emotions. You know what I mean? You get a step up on emotional intelligence all the way around. For every relationship that you're in, you learn a little bit from it, or at least you should.
You should.
Yep.
And
that's one of the things that I tell guys. I had a friend of mine who just got out of a five-year relationship, and he goes, "Man,"
right.
he goes, "No, but listen to this. Yeah, I agree, but here's the thing." He goes, "I feel like I just wasted 5 years of my life. So why?" I said, "Let me ask you something. Are you ever going to fall for the crap she pulled again? No? Cool. Are you going to recognize the red flags that she showed you in the next relationship when you see them and respond appropriately instead of ignoring them?" Yes. I said, "So what you're saying is that you learned something." He said, "Yeah." So then you did not waste 5 years. You got 5 years. You got 5 years experience.
A lesson learned is never wasted time.
Exactly. Even if it's a shitty lesson.
As men, we don't take losses. It's a win, learn, or draw. So he learned in that situation. Shout out to him. I'm glad that he's single.
Yeah, he is too at this point, but I think it took a little bit.
Now, one of the things we should mention are ideologies and philosophies related to masculinity in 2025. So I can't mention philosophies and ideologies without mentioning these communities that I gotta say I'm not a part of. Johnny, you want to take it from here and give me a minute?
So I guess what Bill's trying to say is we're really not trying to align ourselves with any particular movement. Although I will be the first one to say I do like the red pill. I think that there was a lot of great information there, and you do find out a lot of the things that, in my case, have been pulled on me, and in your case, may be pulled on you in the future. So I do encourage you to listen to those things. But I also encourage you to listen to other points of view. I also encourage you to listen to the other side of things, because even though they're wrong, you need to know how they're going to come at you. And if you know how they're going to come at you, well, that's part of the art of war. And let's face it, when they say all is fair in love and war, remember that those two concepts are actually not that different. The weaponry is the only thing that varies.
Hey, look, I'll tell you this, man. I think that every man at one time in his life should read Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Absolutely.
That is one book right there, man, that will pull you into manhood and teach you the benefit of strategy and reliance. I mean, it just that book, man, I think that every guy should read it. It has knowledge in it that has been passed down for 1,000 years, and that's for a reason.
I had to get it in English though, because I had a hell of a time reading the original text.
Yeah, I did too, but it's I'll tell you what, man, it sends you down a path and you come out a different person, the way you look at strategy and
TK, you already have I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, man. I'm trying to wait, but I don't think you can pick up a book and change your mindset, TK. I think you had a man mindset before you picked up the book, so it spoke to you and resonated to you. I think if you're a bitch ass dude and you pick up a book that's meant for men, you're not going to be able to properly translate it or understand it. It's going to be like it's in a different language to you.
Yeah, but see, my thing is this. If you read that book and you feel that way, my suggestion is read it again.
Yeah.
And again. And again. Here's the thing. I talked about the importance of therapy. Sometimes therapy can just be a book that finally makes things in your mind click. And that book could be one of them. And it might not. So I encourage men to be well-read, have a diverse, have a diverse reading portfolio. Make sure that you're getting that information. Now, I don't want to just drop big names. There's a lot of great books out there written by people whose names I can't even pronounce, let alone know. But I mean, there are a lot of great sources out there textually, but I think that it's important to remember that in this day and age with the internet, I would say download it to Google Books if you like it. And then, of course, on every Monday and Thursday, you tune in and talk to your boys here.
Yeah.
Your mind is the most powerful weapon that a man possesses. Some guys think that it's their muscles. Some guys think that it's artillery, whatever the fuck. It's not. The most powerful weapon that a person has is their mind, and knowledge is power all the way. It's as simple as that.
So The Art of War is one of my favorite books. Another one is The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli.
Oh, yeah.
Either of you ever read that one? It was written like
on my bucket list
600 years ago in Italy. Oh, it's great. It's all about ways princes come to power, how you could lose your power, how to keep your throne. It's a very good book.
Nice.
Right. It's right up there with Sun Tzu. Now, okay, we're getting a little bit off topic here.
Yeah.
And the reason why I am so triggered when it comes to masculinity related issues, specifically the ideologies and philosophies, is because I can't stand these red pill communities who blame women for their problems. It's all the woman's fault and her hypergamous nature. It has nothing to do with me. I don't need to work on myself. I don't need to become a better man. It's the woman's fault.
That's actually the black pill.
Well, like I said, I'm not part of these communities, so I just when
Yes,
I
you're
see
correct about
people whining and complaining instead of doing what men do and take some responsibility, even responsibility for the mistakes they've made, it triggers me. So I don't watch red pill, black pill, green pill, blue pill, orange pill, or purple pill content.
You got orange?
Dog, they got all colors. I hear that the different colored pill communities are going to be all inclusive, like the alphabet ones.
Now you're exaggerating, but I get your point.
Johnny,
I'm sitting there for like three. I'm sitting there for like 3 seconds, going, "Is he fucking serious?" Oh wait, well, nice.
He knew what I meant when I LGBT alphabet. All inclusive.
You forgot to carry the one.
Yeah, well, I gotta say this. I've done a lot of red pill reviews. I've done some absolute ridiculous red pill reviews, but out of all we did red pill Ricky. He actually responded to our video, left a comment on it.
Shout out Red Pill Ricky.
Hey, that dude is a class act, man. He left us a pretty good comment, and I myself was even kind of being rude and argumentative with some of his points. So shout out to, I don't know if he took the time to watch the video or not, gentlemen, but he left a comment, and I've got some respect for Red Pill Ricky for that.
Yeah, he respects the community, and I think that he understands what we're trying to do, just like we understand what he's doing.
Yeah.
And we respect it. I do.
Well, that's the thing.
I was kind of his biggest fan that night.
That's one part of being a masculine man is being able to, even though you don't agree with what another guy's doing, being able to respect him for what he's doing, you know?
That is a good point, TK. Oftentimes, a lot of us aren't shown the respect we deserve, and we don't. That's not why we do it. We don't do it for that. But you know, you do have a good point. Those
just simply because someone doesn't agree with what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So they don't have any respect for what you're doing. Now, I don't think that it should be like that. You know.
Well, let's discuss. Let's talk about that a little bit, since we're talking about masculinity, because the other side of that coin is disrespecting someone. And as men, you know how we deal with other people when they're disrespecting us, physically disrespecting us in our face, you know, maybe even being dangerous.
Sorry, my bad. Before anyone out there says anything, the three of us on this panel, we deal with people who disrespect us differently than people nowadays deal with people who disrespect them. We were raised up in a different manner to deal with people differently in that aspect. You know what I mean? We don't get on the computer and go back and forth on some keyboard tough guy shit. You know what I mean? If someone's disrespecting me or out to get me, I bring it right to them. You know what I mean? You're not looking for me anymore, motherfucker. Now I'm looking for you. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do shit. I think it's a big difference between the guys, the way guys handle things today, you know?
You are, but you know, TK, I got to be careful with this because I really got ops out here. I mean it, bro. And like, I understand these, like, hey, Johnny, you were talking about you were wearing some slides with some socks earlier or something, right?
Still am.
Yeah. You would never catch me in your life wearing some socks and some dog. I'm always in some shoes that are laced up because I never know when I'm out about. It could go down. No one's catching me slipping in slides.
I'll have you know that every once in a while I was wearing the slides and socks while she went down. So,
hey, there was a time, man, where I would
there's game and there's game. All right.
There was a time where I'd go out and just slip on my work boots, man, and not time or anything.
Well, work boots are sexy no matter what, though, man. I mean,
I quit doing that shit real quick because I ended up getting pulled up on and sucker punched and knocked on my ass. You know what I mean? Knocked right out of my dang boots because they weren't tied. You know, so just like Bill said, I don't make that mistake no more. I don't go anywhere without my boots laced. You know,
right? Stay ready. So
I don't think that. I don't listen. I don't go around town like that. I wear that around the house. That's the only time. It's just that sometimes I got to take the garbage out and I don't feel like lacing it up.
But you know, you can disagree with what a guy's saying and still respect him and respect the movement that he's making. Is the point that we're trying to make?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Battery low.
Gentlemen, I know that tonight's show is about masculinity, but Jill here is one of our biggest supporters, and she had a question here. Says she'd like each of us to message her on how to be a softer woman. Okay, so first of all, let me say, Jill, to be a softer woman, you need to stop trying to give men instructions. We don't like being told what to do by women. So telling us that each of us need to message you, you need to put a cap on that. Be a little more respectful and nice, and maybe you'll be lucky enough to get some of our time. But
in fact, see us after class.
No, I'm being serious. I do not allow women to dictate the terms of our interactions. So if I get some woman that I match with online or something, and she's telling me I need to do this or to message her or trying to lead me in any way, I'm out. So I understand what you're saying, that you need some help being a softer woman, but this is the problem right here, is your vernacular and how you're going about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jill. Here's some advice on how to be a softer woman. Read your man's body language. When he comes home from work and he's tired, you know, and he's sore and he's aching, read his body language. Give him a back rub if he needs one. You know, hopefully he will do the same thing for you. You know, if he wouldn't, then you shouldn't be in a relationship with him. But you got to learn how to read your man's body language, or any guy for that matter. And sometimes guys just want you to listen to what they have to say, not take their orders, but, just listen rather than give your advice or your comments or your criticism. I think a lot of guys, including myself, have a big problem with when you're trying to unload or just trying to vent, you're getting criticism in return. Well, you should have done this or you should have done that, instead of just listening and just being there as a set of ears and, just for that person to vent. I think that'll help you be a little bit more of a softer woman.
Yeah, my least successful relationships have been with women who kind of treated me more like an employee or like one of their students. If I feel like I'm giving a report to my teacher or my boss, that gets old really quick. And to be honest with you, I lose interest and I start hanging out with you less, and that whole thing dwindles.
Yeah, retain the information that your guy's telling you. One thing that I cannot stand when I'm in a relationship with a female is when I'm trying to be serious and tell her something important and she completely dismisses it jokingly. That is one of my hugest pet peeves, is when a female doesn't take me seriously. I think that's a huge problem. But just being there for your man when he needs you in certain times, I think that includes being a softer woman. If you don't do that for your guy, you should.
All right, so Jill, here's what else I need you to do when you do meet somebody you like. And I think we've had this a talk a week or two ago, or maybe it was last month, or it was a little while back, where you said you've basically given up on dating. And well, here's the thing: you when you do find someone you like, you have to make your environment very conducive for him to want to be in. So, like, you got to, like TK was saying, pay attention to the stuff he says, stuff he does, and that goes as far as the stuff he likes too. If there's a certain kind of beer he likes, get a 6-pack of that and keep it in the fridge. If he is drinking rye whiskey on weeknights, get him a bottle of 4 Roses, because he'll drink it if you're paying for it.
That is correct.
So
4 Roses is actually a really good bourbon, and I got to tell you, for $25, it's the best fifth of whiskey you'll ever find, hands down. That's what I said.
Yeah, I drink a lot of Canadian whiskey myself. I've been drinking Crown lately.
Windsor's good.
I like the Blackberry Crown.
Oh yeah.
John, you don't like Blackberry Crown?
I'm sorry. I thought you said Canadian whiskey, not liqueur.
Hey, bro, I get homemade blackberry wine here in West Virginia, man. I'm telling you what.
Okay, offline, we're going to talk a lot about that.
Dude, it's heaven, bro. Oh my gosh.
Almost heaven.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing too, Jill, if you're still watching. One thing I really look for in a female is a girl who has a little bit of grace to her. That's something that really interests me, when a female isn't clumsy and knocking into shit and acting like a bull in a china shop. That's something that really turns me off. You know what I mean? When a female doesn't have at least a little bit of grace to her, that'll soften you up a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is sexier than a woman who can move with a flowing kind of cadence.
Exactly.
And who at the same time, now here's the thing: a lot of the women that can move well are able to move well through experience. If you know what I mean. But few things are sexier than a woman who can move well, but you can tell hasn't been ran through.
Yeah.
And believe me, ladies, you might think I'm capping, but we can tell.
Okay. So, something else I think that you should do. Joe, I gotta tell you, it should be so easy for you. Your average guy is not really that intelligent. He's been conditioned by his mother to want to please you. It should be easy for you to find some sucker that just wants to put a smile on your face. problem is I did all these things.
You know what, Jill? I'm gonna issue you a challenge for this week. Okay, before Thursday, what I would like you to do is make a 15 to 30-second video. And I mean, all I really want you to do there is just verbally describe the issues you're having and the questions you have. We will watch that, and not only can we give you an answer to whatever you're asking, we can even kind of critique whatever it is body language wise you might be putting across. What do you think, guys?
It's a good idea, man. Yeah,
not bad at all.
And listen, if you don't want us to, we won't do it live on air. I mean, we could even just send you the results via a message. No big deal. But I mean, I want to help you. I think there's something that we could probably figure out.
All right, gentlemen. Now, we've been on for a little bit over an hour, and we don't like to keep these streams too long. So, is there anything that you yourself would like to add to what we need to do to reboot masculinity for 2025?
Yes. You're not going to speak your masculinity into existence. Going around saying you're an alpha does not make you an alpha. Walking around knowing that you know what you're doing. As I said earlier, asserting yourself in every aspect of life as you can. Showing people that you mean business, that you command respect when you walk through a door. Making sure people know that you're there and who you are. Those are the things that are going to make you, even if it doesn't make you an alpha, is going to make you the masculine man that you want to and should be as a result. So let your apprehensions go. Let your inhibitions go. And if you're going to hold on to them, fine, but let that fear move you forward, not backward.
John, I love what you said about being assertive because, I think masculinity comes down to leadership, and you can't have leadership without being assertive. And I would like to see young men assert themselves more myself. Say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Say, hey, I'm not okay with that. Or, hey, this is what I got going on. I just want to let you know. It's really easy to say that to women, especially once you get into a habit. Hey, I just want to let you know. Okay. And you're providing them with instructions. You're asserting your expectations, your needs, your wants, even your desires in some cases. So I think that's really important that young men learn how to communicate with not just people around them, but with themselves. It's okay to have conversations with yourself and learn yourself and figure out what you need. But
not only okay, but important. Yep.
Aside from all of that, you need to be able to speak into words the things that you expect, especially when it comes to.
Hey, look, a wise person when I worked at a certain call center used to tell me, inspect what you expect. I just didn't think it went this deeper into life.
TK, what would you like to add?
Well, I'll put it to you plain and simple. A king never needs to say, I'm the king. It's as simple as that.
I love it. All right.
That should tell you everything you need to know about masculinity. What's that?
This is the last show of 2024, dog.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier.
Our next show is going to be a new year. A new year for the three wise men. So
I'm going to be 41 this Friday, man.
Yeah, I got to tell you, on a personal level, first of all, I love you guys, but not only that, 2025 is going to be huge for me. So I picked up 3 new clients over the holidays before the first before the first year comes. Like before all the New Year's resolutioners have come, I picked up 3 new clients. Pretty soon, my in-person schedule is going to be full, and all I'm going to have time for is virtual and the TikToks, the Instagram. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all my clients. You guys are great. I know some of you are watching. Secondly, I want to say, gentlemen, I'm going to raise a glass and say that I really think this is going to be great for all of us. So cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that, Johnny. I'm looking forward to what 2025 has to offer us. I got a lot of things planned. I'm not giving out any spoilers, but I'm telling you, it's just going to be one thing after another for 2025 for us. I'm on it.
I'll tell him. Bill's getting a man bun.
We are, dog. I rock a man bun all the time. All right, like women, don't get me wrong, dog. They like when I keep my hair down. They like to play with it and twirl it in their fingers. But when I'm in like a low white beater, and I put it up in like a bun, dog, they just melt. I'm telling you, dog, they melt.
The melting man bun, ladies and gentlemen.
So we're going to be back Thursday night, and we're going to go through some Bumble dating profiles. Still looking for some winners. TK, I've been thinking about what you said, and I've been looking for a profile of the week, and I got to tell you, the more time I spend on Bumble, dog, the more I'm not impressed.
I hear you.
Dude, I know we go through that crap with you, and that's only one day a week, and it's excruciating.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, well, Jill says, good night, gentlemen. Thanks for a great show.
Night, Jill.
Boy, hey, Jill, we appreciate your support.
Yeah, we love you.
Says, Happy New Year's. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up, gentlemen. We'll be back Thursday night. We appreciate everyone's love and support. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Like I said, we'll be back Thursday night. All right, we out.
All right, be there or be that's right. Be there or be a four-sided equilateral.
Hey, and ladies, if you can't make the show in person, just make a Bumble profile. I'll get to you eventually.
Yeah.
All right, we out.
Slut.